Chronometry calibrated. The gateway will open in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Analyzing data. Likelihood of parallel universes now at 39%. Continuing analysis of the many worlds hypothesis.
You're gonna die. We all are, as a matter of fact. Except for Peter Thiel, who will upload his consciousness to the last working computer in the post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland he created. But you don't have billions made off the surveillance state apparatus, so you'll actually have to grapple with your mortality. Your life is a series of events and experiences, and once you die, that's it. No more. So, which ones do you want to experience before you kick the bucket? Welcome, everyone. I'm Gayfesh. Joining me, as always, is the lovely DemonMama.
Hello.
And Moss.
Hi.
And today we will be discussing the 2007 Rob Reiner film, The Bucket List. Who had watched The Bucket List on their bucket list? I know I'm stealing that joke from Easy A.
Do you mean, okay. Do you mean by like, did we want to watch it before we died? Or do you mean, did we already watch it once? Because I'm a little unclear about what the bucket list means. In this movie called The Bucket List, where they talk about the bucket list and they explain the concept of the bucket list directly into the camera.
You're very confused. Yes, I understand. Yeah, I kind of feel like we're past the part of Rob Reiner's filmography where he had like a real significant impact. I feel like he had a string of hits in the 80s and 90s, and I feel like we're past that point. I mean, this movie was financially successful. I think it made like 90 million at the box office, but it was not critically well received.
And it functionally coined the term the bucket list.
Yeah,
it did. I think that the term actually dates back to like Make-A-Wish kids on Oprah in the 90s, but it entered popular consciousness as a whole with the movie itself. And I feel like that's the only legacy of this. I don't know anybody who talks about this movie or remembers this movie. I had never seen it before. Now that I've seen it twice, I kind of feel like I don't need to see it again.
Oh yeah, this is a movie I never feel like I need to watch again. Like, maybe they should have called it The Fuck It List. Because that's what they said when they did the skydiving scene. Am I right? No, that CGI in the skydiving scene is embarrassing.
Oh, yeah. No, it's really bad. Actually, there's a bunch of just really bad compositing work.
It's so noticeable.
There's a ton of it.
Like anytime they're moving, Jack Nicholson is moving on the pyramids, you can see green lines all around him. When they're in front of the Taj Mahal, his shirt is like disappearing into the water behind him. And not just on like a special effects level. Like, okay, Rob Reiner, he's not known for doing a lot of VFX work, right? That's not really the kind of movies that he makes. So one could excuse that. But there's a lot of just like really bad continuity errors, like basic stuff that should have been caught in the edit bay. The first time we see Jack Nicholson's character, he's holding the coffee in one hand and gesturing with the other in a wide shot. And then it cuts to a medium shot where the coffee and the gesturing hand have switched places. And that was like the first thing that you see him do. And I'm like, that should have been caught. And there's a bunch of just little details like that. It felt like Rob Reiner had brought the B team to this one. Moss, what are your thoughts on this movie?
I feel like I noticed different technical things than you two do. So obviously, like I noticed the comping was not great and things like that. I looked at like shot comp, and I find that a lot of the things that I'm focused on in a movie is like the emotional beat. So I really liked this movie because the performances bring the emotions to it. And both times that I watched it, I cried at the end. The first time I watched it, I kept noticing myself like really leaned forward in my seat, like really drawn in kind of. Yeah, I mean, I will say it's not as strong as some of the other movies in this filmography, but I think it really landed as far as what it was trying to say, like what it was trying to accomplish emotionally.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I did tear up at the end. Like, it hits me. I'm very sensitive to that, and I'm sure a lot of people are, but I'm very sensitive to that kind of poignancy, I suppose, around, death and memory and things like that. But then there was this weird effect that happened for me, which was like after the movie was done and like it has the resolution and you see the little, hands on the mountain, which that part, I really do like that part.
That was funny.
Yeah, I liked it. It was good. And then then I sat there and went, well, what really was the movie actually saying entirely? Like it almost felt a little bit, I hesitate to use the term manipulative because I tend to reserve that for other types of films. There is a type of film that is like, I feel it's manipulative. It uses like beats and tropes from culture that you identify to like poke your emotions. And then you go, well, was the movie really about that or whatever? I don't think this movie goes that far, but there's certain aspects where I go, I don't know 100% what it's getting at, but I do think it does work on like a interpersonal level. Like the relationship between Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman's characters does work. It works well. They have a great dynamic and chemistry, might I say. His fifth wife.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, there was some definite gay overtones when he brings up that it's the first time he's brought a man to this restaurant.
His little eyebrows. Yeah.
And the tub.
I mean, so as far as the underlying messages of the movie, I mean, I think it's about like family is one component and also like living your life unselfishly. Like, I think that a big thing that this movie tries to accomplish is that Carter teaches Edward that he should not be selfish, right? Like, he's lived a very selfish life. He thinks of himself. He is a billionaire who privatizes hospitals. And so while there can't be a complete redemption in the last 6 months of your life when you've lived so aggressively antisocially like that, it does kind of change him. He rebels against the idea that he should have been changed by the experience. And he has been, though. And he kind of learns to be more in service to others, to make sure that he's thinking of others in a way that he never did before. I do also think that this movie has a subtle pro-religion message that, which I don't like, obviously. Like, I'm an atheist, and that's like the number one form of advocacy that I do right now is like trans atheist advocacy. But yeah, it's like the cynicism of the Jack Nicholson character. You know, I kind of also think that the shots at the beginning of the movie are implying that Morgan Freeman was correct about there being an afterlife, and like he is the point of view as we're like zooming through the mountains. Rob Reiner loves his helicopter shots, by the way.
Oh, yeah. And he's good at them. Like, I watched this with a couple of friends, and we were all kind of laughing at that, like, when they have the quote-unquote religion conversation on the plane. And it was so, like, 2008 early atheism. Like, oh, the biggie. That was a weird one. That had to be an improvisation by Jack Nicholson on the spot. But whatever. The, like, conversation is just kind of, like, it's weird. And there's also this weird implication. Like, I don't think this was the intent. I think when Morgan Freeman's character says, I don't think it works that way, I think he means like, oh, well, it's not about winning. But it does kind of have an edge that's like, nah, you're going to hell, man. And like... And I was just like, that seems out of character.
Like, Jack Nicholson was almost doing like a reverse Pascal's wager, where he's just like, yeah, I'm living like there's no afterlife, and if there is, well, hey, I won, I get to go there anyway. But I feel like when you're dealing with death, talking about what happens after death, if anything happens after death, that's definitely something that's going to be on people's minds. But it felt like that scene was just there to be like, well, it's going to be on people's minds, so they'll have a conversation about it, but we're too afraid to actually say anything about it. So, you know, I mean, Morgan Freeman's character is an obvious Christian, but the movie wasn't trying to be preachy about it. I think it was just trying to have like these two characters have a conversation about it. The most that you can say about like an afterlife is that Morgan Freeman's character is the narrator, and he's narrating even after he's dead.
Yeah, which is a little odd.
And he's like, I know how Jack Nicholson died. So it does imply that he's like still observing afterwards.
He turned into an angel and he's standing on a cloud.
Yeah.
He's God. Didn't anyone else watch Bruce Almighty?
That's so true.
The Mormons were right. That's what it was. He got his own planet and he gets to be God, and that planet was Earth. On the idea of like weird misappropriated tropes, that like there's a part where the part where they're on the pyramids, they have some conversation about what the Egyptians believe, and I've never heard of that before. And I looked it up afterwards with my friend, and we could not find anything like this questions gambit thing. It was all like, I mean, I'm not an expert on Egyptology or anything like that, but is that like an actual thing? And also, I didn't know that the Egyptians really had like a concept of heaven per se. It was a weird conversation, and I wondered why they included that.
I thought it was something about weighing your life against a feather or something like that, but that might have just been Moon Knight.
No, I think that's like the commonly understood or the standout piece of like the myth is that the heart is preserved in a canopic jar so that it can be weighed. And if it is as light as a feather, then you are allowed to progress on to the next step of the afterlife. If not, then your heart is fed to the crocodile, I think Set or something along those lines. That's the one I've always heard, but like I've never heard of this. Like you get asked 2 questions and how you answer makes the difference, and then you get to go to heaven. Because also I'm pretty sure that in like the Egyptian afterlife, at least based on what we were reading last night, there's like also like a huge progression through a bunch of paths that you have to like demonstrate your knowledge of religion in order to like progress through the spirit world. So I don't know. I just found that a little like of a standout, strange thing. There's a couple of moments in their travels, like when they're doing the bucket list, where I'm just like, this feels like it was like cut down for time or like truncated or rushed. The other one is like when they reach the mountain and there's a storm, they make mention of this lady. They're like, we'll probably die before that old lady. And I didn't really get that because she like already looks younger than them anyway. Like, so it's like, well, yeah, of course you would. You're like 1,000 years old. But also like they just never do anything with the lady. And she's in almost every shot in that scene, just like really prominent. I was like, oh, there's going to be like a punchline or something, or like she's going to say something. She's going to be like, I speak English, something like that, like a joke. But there isn't. She's just sitting there reading a book. And I don't know what she's supposed to, why. I don't know why she's like featured so prominently in that scene. I'm like, this scene got cut. Like, I don't know.
I feel like there's always like a little bit of tension with movies, especially like this one, between like things being narratively satisfying and like there has to be a point to why that was brought up versus trying to portray some amount of realism that sometimes we just make offhand comments that don't have anything to do with anything. And I feel like this movie is trying to capture some kind of sense of realness of like, what is it really like to confront the void directly in this way, where you're that your time is limited, you've chosen not to pursue any additional treatment, and you're just trying to live it up while you can. So it is one of those where I feel like if there is an explanation for that, I agree that scene is like, that is a weird little offhand comment, but it's like the cynicism. We're showing Jack Nicholson's cynicism, and by comparison, Morgan Freeman's like relative optimism. Like he seems like a happy guy for most of it. Like he's like trying to look at the good side of things. So I wonder if it's just sort of lending toward that dynamic again.
Well, yeah, possibly. I mean, I found the scene set up very weird, and the use of the camera that like shows this lady so prominently, and then there's just nothing but a throwaway comment. Mm-hmm. I found that very weird, and it seems to me like there's something missing from the scene that was going to be there, and it kind of stood out to me.
If we're going to talk about things that seem like they were set up or cut, I think this one wasn't set up intentionally to be cut. I just think that there was an unintentional setup that they totally missed the ball on. And it's like, why doesn't he get this guy on Jeopardy? Like, that's like, he's very clearly autistic. Yeah. He has all of these things. Every time he watches Jeopardy, he knows all of the answers. So like, why wasn't that part of it? They literally filmed, like there's an episode of Jeopardy that he's watching in the movie that I looked on IMDb that wasn't an episode of Jeopardy. They filmed it specifically for the movie. So if they were already filming Jeopardy for the movie, why wasn't he there?
Mm-hmm. Sounds like it might have gotten cut, yeah. To build off of something that Moss said about like kind of confronting the void and all that kind of things, I feel like a great partner film to this movie is a movie I quite enjoy called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I don't know how many people have seen that movie, but it is a similar premise. It's a Ben Stiller film, and there's this guy named Walter Mitty. He's like the photo editor and page setter at Time Magazine, the equivalent of Time Magazine or Nat Geo or something like that. I think it's an actual magazine.
It's Life Magazine.
Oh, Life Magazine. Okay, there we go. And the whole idea is that they're doing a final issue because the magazine is going to shut down. And this is going to be the end of his career because there's no other real magazines doing this type of work. And so he receives a canister of film that is missing the key most important shot. And it has like a note that sets him off on this gigantic gigantic journey across the world to basically find the photographer who took the photo. And in the end, it's kind of revealed that like there's kind of this double play of like, was it actually like him being lured along to like go and actually live a life that's outside of the dark room, or was that like his own spirit that guided him to do that? And it's a very poignant and touching movie with some absolutely great soundtrack. It's very similar in its overall structure to this movie. It's a guy who's basically confronting death. He's looking at the end of what he's done his entire life, and he's like going out and doing a bunch of crazy things. Like there's this really, I don't want to talk about that movie too much, but there's a part where he jumps in the frozen water and there's a shark in the water and all this kind of like crazy, wacky stuff like that. That's kind of like comedic and whatnot. And it also, I think it ends in the Himalayas as well, which is interesting. But yeah, I feel like that movie's really good to put it next to this movie. As for a movie that more like, I think it more tightly communicates the like what you were talking about, the like look into the void and like confronting the end of your life without even actually being about death per se. It's more about the death of like a career. And oh man, the ending of that movie will make you cry too, but in a very different way. I see you've seen the movie, Mas, and
I just Googled. I haven't seen it.
Okay. Oh, the ending. I don't want to spoil anything, but if anyone here enjoyed this movie, even if you didn't love it, go watch The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and that one it's a real good one. And I've always had a soft spot for that movie, even though I don't feel like it had that much of a cultural impact. But
It was not critically acclaimed either, apparently.
well, yeah, I mean, I get it. It felt like a movie out of its time. It seemed like a bit of maybe a passion project of Ben Stiller or something like that. But they do a lot of like on-site filming, and it looks great. There's like a scene where he's like I think he's riding like a scooter or a bike or something through Iceland. And it's just like these gorgeous, huge sweeping shots of Iceland. Anyway, I'm talking about a different movie. I'm sorry. But yeah, no, I think it touches on that theme. And I do think this movie is reaching towards that. I don't know that it always lands on actually fully grappling with the void, because I think sometimes it retreats away from certain things. An example of this is the relationship between Carter and his wife, which I feel is so unresolved throughout the film. And it kind of just retreats to this like, well, isn't it nice that they've been together forever? But there's clearly dissatisfaction, and he never finds any answer for that. He never even confronts it. He never confronts the fact that like, yeah, we lost each other somewhere along the way. And like, how do you grapple with that? How do you move past that? And he doesn't really. He just kind of is like, oh, let's have sex. And then he has a seizure.
I feel like that was kind of like he realized that the problem was in himself somewhere. She didn't change, but he did, or that he couldn't see her anymore. And so when he's confronted by this possibility of getting to sleep with a beautiful, young, adventurous woman, he turns it down and he's like, I am the lucky one actually in being married to this woman. And then I think that's like the turning point of self-reflection, going like, I'm the reason why something is missing in my marriage. This movie kind of does a lot of things that are sort of implied, which I like when movies ask you to kind of read into what's happening. Like, we didn't see them directly tell him he's dying. It's kind of, in the background, and you're meant to pick it up through the context, and then they move forward with the like, okay, now we assume that you've connected the dots. Proceed now with the fact that they are now on the same page. They're both terminally ill.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I kind of liked that it left some of those things more like, I don't know. I enjoy when a movie asks you to think a little bit and doesn't like lay everything out on a platter. And I do think with his relationship with the wife, like the only thing that I feel is missing from that is that she's not like upset with him when he gets home. But I think she's just so relieved to have him back for whatever time she has him back. Like the decision for him to not use the key to get into the house and be welcomed back in by her was nice. A nice touch.
Yeah, I think that was a nice that moment is certainly nice. And also, I will say, I was impressed with the home sets. Both Jack Nicholson's home, which looks like a prison, a horrible glass prison. And then, the warmth and the coziness and the lush kind of like set work of Carter's home. But to provide a little bit of my take on the relationship, we understand the reasons why Jack Nicholson's character's relationship with his daughter fell apart. We understand that he was trying to do the right thing, but couldn't respect her agency. And that led to an almost unbridgeable gap in their relationship. But we never really see the movie fully grapple with what it is that made Carter's relationship with his wife not work. And I think the pieces are there, but I don't feel like the movie fully puts it together. For example, we do see Victoria, I think her name is
Virginia.
We see her like having this sort of like overbearing approach as a nurse of being like, I'm going to make medical decisions for you because you need to live. And like, that is a real thing that can happen at end of life. And especially in the case when there's like mental decline involved, where it becomes very difficult for caretakers to make the correct decisions that also respect the patient's agency. It is an incredibly difficult thing. And the movie just kind of brushes it and then moves away very quickly. And I think that like there was room for that to go deeper. Instead, we kind of just see a reaffirmation of Carter's like vague Christian values of being like loyal to this woman. But the thing is, we don't really see their relationship that much outside of where they're conflicted. We see him clearly struggling with the fact that she is so involved in his healthcare and making decisions, and that she even just like reams him out for making a decision that is like somewhat selfish for once, but very important to him. And, you know, she never really comes around on that. And that's unfortunate. To me, that seems like almost like an alternate version of this film could have gone into a end of life separation, or even him deciding not to do an end of life separation for her good or something like that, like this imperfect decision. Instead, he's kind of just like, oh, it's great to be home with your family. And in truth, though, we see repeatedly through the film that there's some dissatisfaction there that just never really gets touched. And Jack Nicholson's character does end up having to go and confront it. Unfortunately, like, we don't really see the resolution, but we understand the resolution. And that one is one that I'm fine with, because we see him like have his freak out when he gets the driver takes him to the house. And I feel like the Virginia Carter relationship was a little bit underbaked and underexplored. And it was sort of defaulted back to this sort of like faithful husband stereotype that I don't know that it matches with the rest of what he experiences on the screen. And I don't know, maybe it's a little bit sad to me.
I mean, I think he's resentful. Like, I think that that's what he has to deal with, is at his end of life, he is resentful of her and of their children. And like, he's not particularly close, you know, he doesn't act very chummy with his son when we see the scene with his son. He's obviously like proud of their accomplishments, but I think he's like comparing himself to his children to an extent of like, oh, my sons are successful and they have white collar jobs while I had to work a blue collar job. And, you know, in this environment where I'm exposed to carcinogens and I'm smoking and everything, and that he had to work so hard. And I think that if he hadn't gone on this journey with his new best friend, who's also terminally ill, like that he would have died with that resentment. And that it took having some experiences in the world, like becoming more worldly, basically being selfish, for him to appreciate what he had built, like what he had. And I do think that, you know, they could have worked some more into it. But yeah, I guess I kind of see it as him having a little bit of an internal journey that is subtle in its presentation on screen.
Yeah, I think I would have liked to have seen that dived into more, because I think that feeling of resentment of like spending 45 years functionally in extremely difficult service to other people, only to be sort of reprimanded when you say like, I need some time, I'm gonna die. That's a painful thing that could very realistically breed fairly justified resentment. But resentment obviously is like it's a toxic state. So I would have liked to see him fully resolve that, as opposed to just sort of like, well, you know, I went on an adventure, now I feel better about it, I can go back to things as they were before I, you know, die very suddenly and wrap up the film. Like, it might have been nice to have him be like, kids, the way I did things was a mistake. You can't spend 45 years of your life in pure service to other people. You have to be willing to like negotiate a way for things to be, you know, fulfilling to yourself as well. Because it's clear he is not fulfilled at his his work. It is not fulfilled with what he did on all those fronts. And I think that would have added depth to the movie that the movie desperately needed.
I wonder if it's kind of like the message is that you need to be in the middle of these two extremes, right? We have two kind of extreme situations where Morgan Freeman's character has lived a life of self-sacrifice. Like, he is a religious man. He goes to church. He has a pastor. He kind of believes in putting himself second in order to make sure that his family, his children, his wife are taken care of, versus the Jack Nicholson character, who is so incredibly selfish. He is not kind to his wives. He violates the autonomy of his daughter because he thinks he knows what's best for her. And so, yeah, it's, I guess, like, you need to kind of come back to somewhere in the middle where you're not giving up your life in a way that causes resentment, because people pleasing and doing all that obviously breeds resentment, and also not going off doing whatever you want whenever you want, hurting people, not caring about the wellness of other people. Like, Jack Nicholson's character, it has never occurred to him what it would be like to be receiving the worst news of your life in a room with a total stranger.
Yeah.
And he confronts that at the beginning. He's like, I've never been sick before. Like, I never knew what it was like to be in a room with a stranger. I mean, obviously it ends up benefiting him because they end up being friends and everything. But yeah, like, the idea that you should consider what others need or what others think or the difficulties that other people are going through in their lives. Like, you can't go so far one way or the other. You need to be somewhere in the middle where you consider your own needs and you give of yourself to others. So that, and I think, like what you were saying earlier about the Egypt thing, obviously that was invented whole cloth, the afterlife thing, to deliver the point of the movie, that you should be joyful yourself and you should give joy to others, that you need both of those elements.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I just wish that the movie spent a little more time diving into the fraughtness or the realities, maybe not the fraughtness, but the realities of Morgan Freeman's Carter character more fully. Because I do feel like we see a lot of like the Ebenezer Scrooge like foibles of his way.
Yeah.
I do like, one thing I will say I like a specific, and this is something that I really like about the way that they handled Jack Nicholson's character, is just that like when he does do the action, like he hires the guy to go threaten the husband or the ex-husband or whatever, like that is super understandable. It's like, you're literally like, man, that was kind of a solid thing you did. You really cared about your daughter, and like she clearly had like a battered wife situation going on.
Using your power for good.
Guy. Yeah, and it's like clearly a selfless act, but it's like it has a problem. There's a problem in that selfish act that needs to be resolved and confronted. And so I just would have liked to see more of that present and explored fully in Carter's story, in Morgan Freeman's character's story, because I just feel like it's a little bit underdone.
When I was watching the first time and I saw them on top of the pyramid, I was sitting there going, you can't go up to the pyramid. They won't let you. But then I realized, oh,
that's not legal.
He's a billionaire. Of course, he's a billionaire. Of course, that's how he did. But then he said the line, how do we get down from here? And I'm like, well, how did you get up there? What do you mean? How do I get down from there? I'm like, so now I'm just questioning. I'm like, was he airdropped, or did they just happen to climb up and they don't look out of breath at all, but now they haven't figured it out? That scene was not well thought out.
It was silly, yeah.
And there's a lot of kind of like silly things. I mean, they kind of like, again, they hand wave how they got up into the edge of Mount Everest and how they were going to like, we don't know. Like, I don't think they even say, I mean, do they say they took a hill? I don't think they say anything. Like,
they were going to
as
fly up to see the summit. Yeah. So I think they just flew there.
That's still a hike. That's still pretty crazy to put like an 80-year-old guy to like two old guys who are terminally ill. Like,
which is the craziest thing.
Sorry.
Is like, they say Morgan Freeman is 66. Like, oh, in 66 years, you've only had sex with one woman. And like, so I do think actually the old woman in the Himalayas is meant to be much older than they are, and that they look as old as they do just because they've been sick. And like, chemo fucks your shit up. It can make you look wrinkly when you weren't before. So I wish that they had done more on location. I understand that it kept the budget down, but I'm like, dude, the comp on that Himalayas shot, like they're standing in front of a door and all I can see is the fuzzy edges around Morgan Freeman's jacket as the like soft glow from the Compton, whatever. And at the fancy restaurant where they're talking about caviar and they do a shot out the window and it's clearly just a still painting. Like the waves aren't moving, the ships aren't moving. I don't know. I wish they had done more on location.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we start to see the beginning of, and I think it's a real possibility that like Rob Rob Reiner was just coming up against the changing world of movie production in this film.
Sure.
Because, you know, he definitely has, in all of the films that we've watched, like there is a lot of like, we're going to go find a location that sells this place that we're trying to make. We're going to, you know, film it outside and or we're going to use like if we have to, we're going to have like a matte painting that's like, and that's just not done by the time that this movie came out. Like those things were just cut in some horrifying ways. You know what I mean? Like if you really think about the arc of film production and what has been lost as with regard to skills and whatnot, like it can be, you know, it's kind of sad, but I feel like I wanted to give a little bit of praise to certain parts of this movie because I feel like I've been pretty critical of it. And to sort of maybe soften my critique just a tiny bit, I do think that this is my least favorite Rob Reiner film that we've watched by a pretty good margin. But that's not saying all that much because Rob Reiner films are still very entertaining and fun. Mm-hmm. And the characters are, the actors are cast perfectly. And I mean, it is Jack Nicholson in this movie is so funny. He is like, his expressions are just so bonkers and like goofy and like they always have his hair all fucked up and all over the place. And it's just like, it's so good. But also there is a scene that legitimately made the entire room of people I was watching with just laugh out loud. And it's that scene where he has the little glasses on that let him see while laying down and it makes his eyes look funny. That scene is so good. And they just like they commit to it and they keep just cutting behind the serious conversation and then cutting to him with these fucking googly eyes. And I loved that scene. It made me laugh so hard.
Yeah, apparently those glasses were Jack Nicholson's addition. He had actually just spent some time in the hospital before filming this movie, and that's what he got them for. So he introduced them on set, and Rob Reiner was like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, we're going to use that. But while you were talking about Jack Nicholson's performance here, I feel like he was delivering every line in this movie like he's Jack Nicholson delivering a line. I feel like he doesn't come across as a genuine human being, but also because he's a billionaire, he's kind of not. So I think that kind of tracks.
Yeah.
You know?
It works. It worked for me at least. Like he comes across as like very disconnected and pretentious, you know? Like I think it worked.
He never learned how to empathize with people. Like again, this is his character flaw, is his lack of empathy and you know, just being set apart from everybody and being in charge and telling everybody what to do. So yeah, I felt like I guess I haven't seen a lot of other Jack Nicholson movies and I also haven't watched him in any interviews, so I wouldn't be able to say like, oh, that's just Jack Nicholson. It's not like when you watch Jeff Goldblum in Thor Ragnarok and you're like, that's just Jeff Goldblum being Jeff Goldblum.
It's Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson plays a version of his personality in pretty much all of his films. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
I will say on the disconnected billionaire thing, I think it's a writing decision to have him be like a vulture capitalist for the medical industry and just kind of like move on from that. Like that is so evil. It's so evil that you're like, at least for me, it was in my mind the whole movie where I'm like, hold on a second. This guy is a massive evil person. Like it's pretty hard to come around and be like, yeah, great redemption art, my man. Like when he's just like, yeah, we're gonna like understaff our hospitals and then like utilize studies to bowl over people and like take advantage of like floundering hospitals. And it's like, bro, like it has the same problem that A Few Good Men have in that way, where it's like you have to swallow a lot of like, okay, like to kind of like buy the message, because it's just like they couldn't have chosen something else. They couldn't have had him be like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a less evil billionaire, but like he patented flavor of soda pop or something like that. You know, something that's less immediately evil, so that like you kind of have to just like hand wave it and forget about it in order to be like, yeah, this guy's little 3-month redemption arc it sells. It does damage the believability in my mind.
We didn't have the Louis Mangione stuff yet. We didn't. I mean, this was before even Obamacare, because this movie came out in 2007.
Yeah.
So I feel like as a culture, I mean, obviously people were talking about healthcare and how much it sucked, but I feel like it wasn't so front and center in the zeitgeist as it was by the time Obama came on, you know?
Yeah, that's fair enough. The difference in their medical care, like, isn't it crazy how we don't see Dr. Gibbon one single time? The guy who's supposed to be the doctor for Morgan Freeman, we don't see him at all. And the other Dr. Hollins, I think, Jack Nicholson ends up being like, you know, you're his doctor now, basically. It's like, it's interesting. The disparity is like partially because Jack Nicholson owns the hospital. It's partially because he's rich. It's also because he's white. There's a clear thing there where I'm like, Morgan Freeman is like a black man who's a mechanic. He's working class, and his doctor doesn't seem to give a flying fuck how he's doing. We only see him interact with nurses.
Yeah. I mean, I think that further adds to like the evilness quotient of being like, okay, the billionaire can use his influence to make sure you get to see a doctor, but how about all the other like older black guys in there who are being like discriminated against? Also, as a small note, a cultural note, the movie Sicko by Michael Moore, which was very, very culturally influential in getting people to think about healthcare, it came out just a few months after this movie.
Yeah, it came out before. The Sicko came out May 19th, 2007, and Bucket List came out Christmas 2007.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm getting different dates from here. Sorry, I IMDb seemed to be giving me different dates, but that's whatever. So yeah, so they came out the same year regardless. And that kind of just, I think that kind of just shows you that like the conversation was happening, but I think you're right in saying it hadn't quite breached the like pop culture or media mainstream, but it was definitely present. And I do kind of think that like it's fair when a filmmaker makes a movie about an issue that affects a ton of people to be like, hey, like you missed the mark, or you were not in touch with the people, what the actual suffering was if you're going to talk about this issue. Like obviously you have to meet a movie where it's at, but I think it's, you know, I think there's a certain ground of going like, maybe you weren't thinking as deeply about this subject as you should have been. And the Ebenezer Scrooge like redemption thing is a little harder to sell when you're like thinking about the fact that this guy is like immiserating millions of people.
Yeah. It's true to life too, that like bouncing off something you said, DemonMama, that he can personally be like, yeah, my buddy here needs higher quality care. I want my doctor to treat my buddy. I've met rich people who are like this. They are very, very generous to people that they think are deserving. They want to personally evaluate. You know, they want to personally tip the pizza man $50, and they want to personally help their individual family members. And they do not seem to comprehend on a deeper level that like everyone deserves good care, or that they personally do not and should not have the power to choose who gets help, like who gets assistance. You know, that this guy privatized 15 hospitals that were public hospitals. And, you know, when he first meets Morgan Freeman, he's like, get this guy the fuck out of my room. I don't want somebody in my room. And then evolves into being like, well, I personally care about you. I'm going to lift you up. I'm going to give you experiences that you've never had before. I'm going to take you back. I'm going to offer to take you back to the hospital multiple times. And there's kind of like an implication that he is willing to pay for it and everything. And it's not on screen, but in all likelihood, he probably did wipe out all of the debt from Morgan Freeman's cancer care.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's like, it is such a real problem that rich people like have the power to decide who is worthy, who has the merit of access to fucking anything.
Yeah.
And this is like the issue with running your economy based on like charity and the goodwill of private individuals versus like a social safety net that addresses everybody's needs and doesn't leave anybody behind and doesn't means testing every individual person, right? We should just give every kid free lunch in the schools that they're legally required to be in. There shouldn't be like you have to prove you're so poor that you need free lunches. It's fucking ridiculous.
And humiliating. And like, if you, it is a kind of like, I think it's a present problem in the movie that I do think like people caught on to it to a certain degree. Obviously the critical response to this movie was not very loving. So I definitely think it registered for some people, but you know, this idea that like a certain part of the movie is just saying, you know, if you have terminal cancer, just luck out to be put in the same room as the owner of the hospital that you're in.
Yeah.
You know, which is just like, that's a very insensitive sensitive message that is kind of, again, just kind of hand waved in this film. And it's unfortunate because I do think it detracts from the overall, like, it detracts from the ruminating phase of the movie, where in the moment, it's very easy to get lost in like these funny back and forths between, you know, Carter and Edward. And they're like the poignancy of like, you know, he was my friend and he showed me the light. But then when you think back on it, you go, wow, damn, that's a really fucked up situation. And we just kind of moved on from it. Everybody's dead now, and they're all on the can in their nice mountain because thank God the billionaire had an assistant that would be willing to climb Mount Everest
alone, which would not happen. None of that is realistic at all.
It's also really funny that, like, I guess it speaks in retrospect to like our moment in history where it's like at this time the hike of Mount Everest was imagined as like a solo adventure, and right now we have the experience on Everest is that there are queues, giant queues of people waiting at the top, and they have to plan their oxygen for waiting in line to go stand at the top of the mountain. And it means that like that idea of like hearing the voice of the mountain is just like it's a bygone thing because there's enough rich kids and billionaires who are just like, yeah, I want to go climb Everest. It's like a meme now.
It's like a conveyor belt, you know, like the native and indigenous people there are like operating a product line, which is that people want to be taken up here, shepherded up to the top of the mountain and look out, and that you're passing by innumerous dead bodies on your way up there. Like, yeah, it's gross.
It is pretty gross. And then also there's the reflection of that, which is that like clearly the people who live in the Himalayas are in need of the resources so much that they're willing to endure that.
Yeah.
It does speak to our very like increasingly like caste based world. And also to what you were saying before, which is that like these billionaires, these people who like exist in this billionaire class, they have the ability to elevate at their whim a person they deem to be personally enjoyable enough to them, you know, that like, oh, well, you know, I could basically functionally buy a friend, and that person can't really say no because otherwise they'll never see their life. They'll never see what they want to see in their life. They'll die horribly. And maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm having the same problem I did with A Few Good Men, but Gayfish.
I got a couple notes here. First off, I noticed that when Jack Nicholson got his head shaved, he looked a remarkable amount like Dean Norris.
Yes.
And then during the race sequence, he literally says that Morgan Freeman is breaking evil. And this movie came out like 3 weeks before Breaking Bad premiered. So like that was just absolute serendipity right there.
Or somebody on the set knew.
Yeah, or somebody on the set knew. But second off, I think it is probably about time for me to bring in the Star Trek references.
I'm ready. I'm so ready for Star Trek time.
That's what I was going to ask you about. That's what I was literally saying when I said Gayfest. I was going to ask you, where's the Star Trek connection?
Okay, so we have two actors in this movie, both kind of background actors who are also kind of background actors in Star Trek. We've got Jordan Lund. He played the tattoo artist, and he played 3 different aliens on 3 different Star Trek series.
Oh,
and we got Richard McGonigal, who played the board chairman, and he appeared as an alien on TNG and as a Starfleet engineer on 2 episodes of Voyager. And that's all the Star Trek connections I've got for you, other than them visiting planets by not actually visiting them, just on a green screen. It was very much a similar kind of a thing.
Like, it's so much more charming in Star Trek.
Yeah.
It lacks a lot of that tinge of like, how many dead children did we step over to get the amount of wealth required to go to the Taj Mahal?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's rough.
You know, what a time. What a moment. Yeah. I don't know. This movie does have a hard time escaping its like the weird like billionaire tourism fantasies. Like, and I don't think it's helped by the fact that it's like, oh, they go to all of like the big name like Taj Mahal and the pyramids, which, by the way, another small point in the favor of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which that movie does not involve him really going to any major locations. One of his locations that he goes to is like a impoverished fishing town where he's like soaked by the rain and it's like everything is covered in like fish heads, and he's like finds this little cozy tavern there and he's like, whoa. And like, so it's like him finding these corners of the world that he never would have seen if he never left the dark room. But like this movie is kind of like, well, let's go to the Burj Khalifa. Let's go to Big Ben. We're getting culture here. Culture without ever actually interacting with any of the people who live in
Life
those
experiences means just going to tourist traps over and over again, but we don't even have to go to the tourist traps. We can just film it on a green screen. That's the bucket list. That's what you want to do. Well, and like I feel like the film somewhat tries to address that a little bit, because that's ultimately not what's fulfilling, and it's Jack Nicholson's character's idea of what a bucket list is. I mean, he derides the first few things written on the list, but those end up being the ones that are actually meaningful. His are just, hey, I've got money, let's do something fun, which is, it's fun to do fun things, but that's not the meat and potatoes of your soul, you know? He's
like so annoyed at the idea multiple times in the movie that Morgan Freeman wants his experiences to be meaningful. Like he's like this, he literally says, this was supposed to be fun. Like this wasn't supposed to be fixing anything or going and like, I don't know. He just kind of like seems so frustrated by it. But then, like I said before, he is changed by the experience. And the thing that really like made me cry both times I watched it was him crossing off, kissing the most beautiful girl in the world.
Yes.
After he meets his granddaughter.
Oh my God, that was, I
sweet.
love that. It's so tacky, but it is so cute. and I love it. I love that moment. And it's funny too, because unfortunately they kind of like double dip. Let's try to double dip on that, because when he's giving the speech, he scratches off the like, do something kind for a stranger. They didn't need to do that. Like they could have just left it at the kiss the most beautiful girl in the world when he kisses the granddaughter on the head, which is like, that is a very beautiful moment. And I love that moment. It works. It worked for me too. Yeah.
I guess the idea is like he was strangers with Morgan Freeman. So maybe he's like trying to, it's a little cope kind of thing where he's like, I already went outside of my norm by bothering to bring this man into my life and by offering to show him wonderful things and like try to bring him joy in those last couple of months. So like he crosses off at that moment, like, oh, he wasn't, by the end, he wasn't a stranger, but at the beginning he kind of was.
Yeah, for sure. Also, the you gotta be shitting me. Well, the cat's already beat me to it. That is a tacky but great joke.
They built it up the whole movie, because if you know what Kopi Luwak is, from the very beginning of the movie, I was like, and like that. Okay, so I want to say it is so sad to me also that Morgan Freeman is so avidly interested in history and little tidbits and facts that he spent his whole life reading, even though he wasn't able to be a teacher the way that he wanted to be. But because he knows so many things, you know that he knows from the very first scene where he's like, oh, it's called Kopi Luwak, and he's like, I know what it's called. He's like, he knows, and that he waits and lets it build until he's like cracking up and crying, laughing. Just the payoff of that as an audience member who knows what Kopi Luwak is was very satisfying.
Yeah, it was good. And this movie definitely does have good moments. I've been very critical of this movie, but I do think it had, like, it's definitely an entertaining watch. I don't think that anyone's going to watch this movie and, well, okay, I shouldn't say anyone. There's lots of people who would watch this movie and check out, but I do think that it's got enough funny moments. And like, oh, another one that I really love, when they're up in the plane about to jump out, and it's like the like instructor's like, maybe it's because you called her the sequel. And he's like, what? And he's like, maybe it's because you called your wife the sequel. Maybe she didn't like you because of that. And he's like, shut up.
Yeah. Oh, I never thought about it that way, Kyle.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Yeah,
it's just like such like that moment works really well as just like a random guy like giving you insight in a way that's like, yeah, dude, obviously. Yeah, like you called your wife the fucking sequel, you asshole.
Yeah. Truly.
So I will say, at time of recording, there is one thing that I was able to cross off my bucket list yesterday, and that was see humans return to the moon. The Artemis flyby was yesterday at time of recording, and I was sitting on front of a screen the whole day watching the live stream. Ooh, it was glorious. So that's something to be excited for, and that was something that I got to see, because it was 16 years before I was born when the moon landing first happened, so I didn't get to experience experience that, but I got to experience this.
And in 2 more missions, they're planning on putting feet on the moon, right? Like Artemis 4 is going to be like
4.
an actual moon landing again. That's exciting.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks to you, Gayfesh, me and my partner and my roommate, we were out running an errand and then we stopped to go get some really delicious fry bread. And we actually, because you poked me about it, we were able to sit there and watch the launch. And it was a profound experience for all of us, just sitting there in that cafe watching the launch go. It was great. So I appreciate that a lot that you sent that. And I would have missed it because I just lost track of the timing and everything. But
I wanted to make sure nobody missed it. And it's important.
Yeah. Humans
it really is. It gives a moment of going like, wow, like we actually can do something good. Like we can do something interesting and exciting. And humans still have the ability to punch above our station, so to say. And I like that. They clearly have been dealing with a lot. I know they've been having some issues with their toilet system, which really sucks.
I've been watching the stream nonstop for the last week, and legitimately half the conversations have been about that fucking toilet. I feel so bad for them. Yeah. I even actually watching the live stream, I was able to catch like they injected a big space turd from the thing, and at first I was like, did something flake off the ship? And then I realized, no, I just saw poop. I just saw poop flying off into space.
A bag of poop.
Once in a lifetime, that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
When I was in my early teens, I was able to go and witness a rocket launch at Cape Canaveral in Florida. And it was an incredible experience. I don't now, right off the top of my head, recall what was launching, but we were right across from the launch pad, across the water from the launch pad. We got there super early, and it was a profound thing to witness. I wasn't there in person this time, but my memories of that came back. And there's something magical and inspiring about it that I think we desperately need in these absolutely horrible times of despair.
That we're still making progress in some ways, at least.
Yeah, some people are out there working very hard to do something interesting and imaginative and creative and cool and brave, even if some people can't see what value it will bring. That it's something that's one of those things that, like, this doesn't bring you profit. It doesn't bring you some kind of immediate solution. What it is it's a step towards something greater, towards a future that we can imagine and see that will happen over generations. I love that. I love to see that.
Watch For All Mankind.
Oh, For All Mankind is so beautiful. I love it so much. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, are we down to our last one? Spinal Tap 2? Is that the next one?
Yeah, that is the next one that we were doing. And that is Rob Reiner's final film. So look forward to doing that. That's another one of his that I have not seen. And until then, I've been Gayfesh.
I'm Moss.
And I am DemonMama.
And we will catch you next time. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.